What can we learn from the Georgia Southern game? Going back, rewatching it, getting the coach on. This is another coach's corner. Georgia Southern game. Let's go.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, Badger fans? Welcome to Locked On Badgers, your team every single day. Today's episode brought to you by Jase Medical. Empower yourself when you purchase a Jase case, providing you with a personal supply of 5 antibiotics that treat 50 plus infections. Get yours today at jasemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com. All right, we're going to bring Coach Andersen back on. Had him on last week. Ton of great feedback from it. And Coach, I don't even know, I didn't really run this by you, but I'm just going to start calling this Coach's Corner. I think it sounds great. Yep. I love it. Let's start Georgia Southern, right? So Wisconsin's coming off. Some would call it a less than impressive win. Others would call it just fine. Definitely want to start big picture with you. You've rewatched it. You've put content up on your Substack, which we're going to show here in a second as well. What was your big picture takeaway kind of rewatching this game?
I think it's really showing me that execution is the issue. I don't think it's play calling. I don't think it's scheme. I think it just comes down to guys executing, both offensively and defensively. If you look, I went through yesterday, just watched it again, and just kind of took the negative plays or the plays that didn't hit efficiently in the first, through the game. And it's, Jack Nelson falls down. Defensive end makes a good play on a wrong arm. Defensive end spins into a sack. Jack Nelson lines up in illegal formation. Will Pauling read leverage wrong, which caused Tanner to throw late. Furtney and Mullman get split on a slant where one guy thought he had and the other one as well. And we're just going like that. That's the first quarter. Second quarter, it's the Braelon Allen mistake fest. It's Braelon Allen can't cut. Braelon Allen blocks the wrong guy. Braelon Allen can't burst. The scheme can't hide that. Now, one would say maybe, like in the case of Braelon, maybe Braelon shouldn't have been playing. If he's as dinged up as I kind of speculated watching Washington State, he did not look healthy. Mm-hmm. And I think it proved it in the first half against Georgia Southern. And then I don't know what happened at halftime. I don't know if he got a cortisone shot or I don't know what they do with college players, but he had his burst in the second half. So then in the second half, he looked like Braelon from Buffalo. So it really comes down to execution. Defensively, we're great on first and second down, at least against Georgia Southern, or good enough anyways. And then mental mistake, stupid penalty, whatever on third down, and they just kept extending drives. Missed tackles. You can't scheme around missed tackles. Guys just have to make tackles. And so I don't want it to sound like it's the coach taking the blame away from the coaches, but there's a point where the players have to make plays. And I think so far this year, and especially defensively against Georgia Southern, we just didn't. And offensively in the first half. Second half, it all tightened up. So it shows you the stuff's there and it works, but the guys just have to execute.
Well, and I think that's Luke Fickell in the press conference after Washington State. I don't think it was the one after Georgia Southern. He mentioned we just have to win some of our one-on-one battles, right? He kind of alluded to that. And you mentioned the Braelon, blocked the wrong guy. Are you talking about the blitz pickup that he had?
Yeah. He had a blitz pickup where, and I mentioned it in my breakdown. The linebacker did a sneaky thing. He hid behind the umpire until right before the snap, and then he came up, and Braelon wasn't looking in the right spot. And Braelon's not a good pass blocker to begin with. He's going to drop in the draft because he can't pass block. He's just not good at it. And so when he makes a bad decision, it's even worse. And it's the same with the offensive linemen too. I mean, we've had, lots of one-on-one matchups that they just lost. And there's not, we coach up technique, we coach up scheme, but at the end of the day, the player has to win the battle.
Talk to me about run blocking as a running back, because Braelon's obviously has the requisite size, physicality to do it. Is it Where is the disconnect? I want to kind of go bigger than just Braelon here because there's a lot of
Mhm.
running backs that struggle with pass pickups, right?
Mhm.
Big
Mhm.
physical running backs. Where is the disconnect sometimes in ironing that out? Do you think?
Yeah, I think, using Braylon as an example, like his big thing is when he comes down to the line of scrimmage to set up for pass block, he tends to he doesn't explode much to the line of scrimmage. You get that with a lot of backs. Um, they're a little hesitant coming to the line because if they're blocking somebody, that guy's coming full speed from 5 yards, and that's not fun to absorb. I mean, I was a fullback in high school. That stuff was not fun to absorb. And then, guys like Braelon, for example, he likes to throw a shoulder into guys and try to deflect them instead of breaking down and keeping his feet chopping and try to move the guy. And then also, depending on the pass protection, like for example, that play we're just talking about, Braelon had his eyes outside, and he needs to work from inside out instead of outside in, because that farthest outside defender that he was probably looking at, that's not his responsibility. That's on the quarterback. And so when you get backs who don't understand their role in the scheme and knowing where they fit when the pass pro changes, that can be an issue. Like maybe the call. I mean, I'm not in the running back room, so I don't know what the pass protection, how they called it. But I'm assuming he thought he had one of those outer gaps, and when they showed those three guys wide and Tanner adjusted the protection, he didn't adjust with it. So they adjusted to go wider with the offensive line, and he was supposed to pick up inside, and he didn't do that. And a lot of times with running backs, it just comes down to not knowing where they're supposed to be in the scheme. And I think that was the case there. In the other games, it was a lot of throwing shoulders at guys, not setting his feet, not keeping his feet moving. This game was just him not being in the right spot. And that's part of the reason why he's out in the route a lot, is I think they think he might be a liability in pass protection. And a lot of air raid teams use the running backs in the pattern because, you try to get an extra guy out in the route to have less pressure to kind of negate pass protection. So it's interesting. That's maybe why he's getting more reps or getting more pass routes thrown at him is because of that. I think we might be seeing less of it now. Like we saw, he only had one swing pass and then that shovel pass against Georgia Southern. So maybe his role is going to change a little bit, but he has to get better at pass protection. Like he's going to drop several rounds in the draft if he can't pass protect.
Right. You hear that every year with 5 or 6 running backs, right? Like we love the polls, but you got to be able to in the NFL. You have to, because quarterbacks are $200 million, right? And one hit on one of those guys, that's the franchise. I want to ask you this. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say it's gone as the day of the every down back, where so even the running back by committee, you still have to do the basics. Everyone has to do the basics. Like, sure, they might bring in a third down back, but teams pass on every down. So if he's going to be a first and second down back, he still needs to be able to pass protect. So it's not like the old days where run on first down, run on second down, pass on third down, bring in the third down back. Now that even though it's more specialized, you still have to do everything.
Right. So. That is it is modern football.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back with Coach Andersen. We're going to talk about what he might have noticed between the first half and the second half. Is there something different schematically the coaches are doing, or is it just kind of random noise with the Badgers struggling? We're also going to talk about his favorite play of the game, break it down, a really nice pass to Will Pauling, plus are they scheming up pressure? A ton to get into with Coach Andersen on Coach's Corner today. But first, today's episode is brought to you by our good friends over at Jase Medical. I've talked about it. You have to be able to take care of your family, right? Be empowered to take care of your family. That's what Jace Medical is here to do. 5 life-saving antibiotics that treat over 50 different issues. Ongoing care from our physicians on any treatment-related question. Doctor created, doctor recommended. Don't get caught unprepared. Like, I have my Jace case just in case I can't get to a pharmacy during an emergency. I have antibiotics that I can help my family with. I keep it right next to all my survival cash. I highly recommend this because you just never know. You never know what could happen. So be prepared if possible. Jace is here to do that for you. And now you can save more than $360 with this great offer by getting these life-saving antibiotics with Jase Medical, plus an additional $20 off by using code Locked On at checkout on jasemedical.com. That's Jase Medical, Jase medical.com. Promo code Locked On. Do not get caught unprepared. Be empowered to protect your family. All right, let's get Coach Andersen back on. I want to say thank you to everybody tuning in. Coach, I wanted to ask you specifically, and this is something I'm really interested in your perspective here, because from a fan's perspective, I feel like it's kind of random noise. I feel like a bouncer to here, a little, like you said, better execution here or there. But schematically, from a result standpoint, there have been dramatic differences with how the Badgers have looked in the first and the second half. Schematically, did you see anything different?
I think in the second half, offensively, you definitely saw a lot more use of the tight end in RPOs. They started mixing that up a little bit more. And it's something that they had been building on going up until from the Buffalo game to now is you see a lot of that split flow action with the tight end coming across. And now you're seeing Tanner starting to pull it out, dump it out to the flat. He had another one where on an outside zone, he pulled it on the reading the end coming out, and Skylar Bell was still sitting out there as an access, and he just chucked it out there. They got a lot more into the RPO game in the second half, where it's more of a read because they throw tons of what we call access throws, and those are the throws where it's usually to either Bryson or Chimray, the outside receivers, where he gets the ball, he might stick it in the running back's belly, but he just turns and chucks it out there. That's not necessarily an RPO. It's like he looks at leverage before the play. He likes what he sees. He takes the ball and he throws it. And so, but in the second half, you saw on top of that, you saw him actively reading second level defenders for these RPOs, both to Pauling, the play that we're going to talk about here in a little bit. That was an RPO. Both of the passes to Ashcraft and the flat were RPOs, and then using that to set up the run plays, like the whole sequence leading up with that play that we're going to talk about here in a second. It's all set up by that action. And so that was encouraging to see. And I think he was finally starting able to get guys in space. We hit Rucci on that crossing route up the middle. They've been calling that play since the launch. I mean, it is a staple, and they finally hit it. And so that was really encouraging to see. And I like that Tanner is starting to run the ball more.
Yes.
Like he is being aggressive with his feet, and that is going to come into play against Purdue. I don't know if you saw the stat line from the game against Syracuse, but Syracuse's quarterback had 200 yards rushing. And okay, they're different athletes, but Tanner's using his feet, and instead of kind of sitting in the pocket waiting for things to develop, he's seeing what he's seeing and he's taking off, which I like to see. So that was a big step.
Yeah, let me ping you on that, because that's one of the notes I had written down, and you just got onto it, which is great. When I was rewatching the game, Tanner's mobility is so underrated, right? Because he wants to make plays in the pocket primarily. It's there, he's going to throw it. But the unique thing with Tanner, and not all quarterbacks do this, is when he's scrambling, you saw it on a couple plays, one which he threw to Chimray in the first quarter, I believe, was off a scramble play down the left sideline. But another one where he got, I think, 8 yards is maybe a third down. He also has the ability to run while keeping his head up and alert. And so many quarterbacks, when they start moving the heads down, like Mordecai has such poise in those moments. And I think it's a really underrated aspect of his game.
Yeah, he doesn't. A lot of times when you have mobile quarterbacks, when they take off running, they cease being quarterbacks and they become running backs. But you look at like Tanner does it. I think the ultimate is Russell Wilson. For as much as Russell Wilson runs around in the pocket, takes off, he's always has his eyes downfield, and eventually he's just going to flick his wrist and throw the ball 40 yards downfield, and that's the difference. And that's what I like about Tanner is like he's going to look, he's going to move around, he's going to try to keep the play alive, find something. If he can hit it, he'll hit it. If he can't, he'll take off. And that's something we've been missing. Just that little bit of mobility is what we've been missing. Like I think Graham Mertz could have done that. He showed athletic ability. but he never committed that much to the line of scrimmage. Definitely anybody before that, Hornibrook couldn't do it, and Stave couldn't do it. Bart Houston probably could have done it, but you know what I mean? So it's just that threat of him taking off adjusts the defense. They have to respect it. But that also opens up the pass behind it. So as soon as you commit to him, I mean, he has thrown some laser beams on just, okay, moving around. Okay, now I see you. I'm going to hit you. And that is very encouraging. And it's something that we need in order for offenses to work these days. You can't just be a statue back there anymore and eventually hope one of your 3 receivers in the route is going to get open. You have to create something, and he can do that.
Well, and it puts defenders in, and this is a term you've used a lot, I've seen other people use it. It puts defenders in conflict, right? Where the defenders in that short zone, those hook zones, when he starts scrambling, they suddenly have those decisions to make. And an interesting one is you can see Georgia Southern. Do you remember their first touchdown this game where they pitched out to the running back and he was going to throw it and he didn't, and then he tucked it, you couldn't catch him? Well, that play is made because Zachman's in conflict. He couldn't come
exactly.
up. Throw. That's what
exactly. And that's the thing. It's because we have in our schemes we have okay, flat defender. You're in charge of the QB if he leaves the pocket. But try telling that to a guy in the field when there's someone standing right behind him. And that is a huge thing. And that's where what we preach on offense is put the defense in situations where they can't be right. They're going to get yelled at either way. Whatever they do is wrong. And so what can you do? And usually what ends up happening is they stand still, or they're just sitting in the middle, and then they're going to get beat either way. And that's an aspect of our offense that we have not had since Russell Wilson. And I think Russell Wilson was an anomaly in the Christ system. Like, he took full advantage of having an athlete like that. And we haven't had that. We haven't been putting players in conflict. It's been about we have to win the battles one-on-one. We have to be big on big. We have to be the strongest to win. And when we have all-world running backs like Jonathan Taylor and Melvin Gordon, we can do that. But when we have human running backs and below average quarterbacks, we can't. Right. Now we can, because now scheme can help close the gap between your athletic ability and what the other team can do. So that's an encouraging sign. And that's what I like to see. And that's why I run offenses like this, because it makes it easier. And it's starting to get easier for our offense.
Well, and speaking of scheme, let's throw this play up. This was kind of one of your plays of the week. And let's just talk through it. So let me share the screen, and hopefully this goes as smoothly as it did when we tested it. Let's see here. And again, this is off. Okay, you should have it now. I want to take a second as well and encourage everyone to go check out Coach Andersen, what he does over at Dairy Raid. We'll put that link in the show. But this is all his work. So, Coach, why don't you walk us through this play and what we're looking at here?
Yeah, so what I really like, and I kind of talk about it here, this is a part of the play sequence that came after Georgia Southern's touchdown to go up 14-7. This is after the hit out of bounds on the kickoff from Chimray. So play 1 of this series, they ran inside zone with Braelon, but they had Rucci kind of give a little stutter, and he went out in the flat. That paused the backside linebacker who's listed as a Sam backer on this. So he's already thinking one way or the other. And then he was late. He tried to chase Braelon, couldn't get there. Second play in this series, or another play, I think this was the third play in the series, they come out and now they're putting him in conflict. So first, then they send him on a blitz. Now they're conflicting the nickel back, and they're putting him in a situation where he needs to get into the run fit because we're losing the Sam backer because he's containing outside. He's trying to conflict the quarterback, and he ends up hesitating. And because he hesitated, we were able to get the 2 blockers out in front, and we have 3 over 2, and that's a win every time. So this is a combination, both Tanner's reading the leverage pre-snap, where initially it was 3-on-3. Now with the linebacker blitzing, it's 2-on-2, and he's just watching the nickelback. If the nickelback widens on that and tries to go out with Pauling on the bubble, then he's going to hand it off to Braelon. And because he did that, if he does that, then they're -1 in the run fit. And so that would be a good game. But since the nickelback kind of stood still, it was an easy pitch out to Pauling. And because of the condensed formation, he was able to turn the corner. And I think he got 16, 17 yards on that play. And it was all set up by the previous couple plays where we're putting those edge players in, or those down box players in conflict. And whatever they do is wrong. Because again, with that nickelback is, what do you do? It's like, I'm supposed to be part of the run fit, but I also have to be out here for the bubble. So he can't be right. And
let me ask you, I mean, what should he do there? Right? Because is this formationally on the defensive coordinator for Georgia Southern? Do they need to?
I think what he was trying to, looking at a blitz like this set up with how the defensive line is set, I think he's trying to give a false read with the defensive end, hoping that because he sees the end crash that he'll pull it out, and then the linebacker could either step out and take Tanner or step out and maybe knock down the pass. So it's not necessarily a bad call, but I think Tanner recognized it early. He recognized it pre-snap that the blitz was coming. So as soon as he knew that, he had the ball out of Braelon's belly like a millisecond after the snap. So he knew he was getting there. And the only thing that can really help this is if the free safety can get downhill and make the tackle. And that's a tough call. And that's a long way for him to go. And again, they're using the formation, using a condensed formation to the field to create that open space to the outside, because it causes guys like the cornerback to overthink getting outside. And I think he does. I think he tries to crash outside, and then DK Watt just walls him off. And then Rucci, it's a bad matchup with Rucci on the nickelback, and he just obliterated him. And so it's a great play call, and it's a great setup.
Yeah, let me ping you on that, because I thought one of the things that's been impressive to me, and again, it's this player here is Rucci on the inside. One of the things that's been most impressive to me with Rucci, and seen it from week one every week consistently, he blocks in space as well as you can as a tight end. On smaller backs, more agile backs, on linebackers. It doesn't matter. Like, he wins almost all of those one-on-ones in space, it feels like.
Yeah, he is a tremendous blocker. He knows, he has a good feel for how his body is. Like, he's under control. He knows, and this is a credit to the system before. The Wisconsin tight ends had to know how to block, and he does. And he's done a really good job. He's good getting out in space, and that's why I think him and Ashcraft really work well together, because Ashcraft's more of a receiver, probably because he's younger, a little bit smaller. And then Rucci is the big body who you can get up the seam, who you can get out in the flat a little bit, but he's also going to be that edge guy to give you that little bit of extra power on the side. But yeah, there's a lot of good things, that whole sequence. And I'll tell, if anyone is going back and watching, it's the touchdown drive after Georgia Southern takes the lead 14-7. And it's just a really nice sequence of plays that all kind of build off each other. And then they build off that later into the game. That's where you started to see the tight end get more involved in the flats and stuff like that. So that was really encouraging to see.
That's awesome stuff. We're going to take one more quick break, come back with Coach. We're going to talk Purdue. What's his feel on what I think is a tricky road game in early Big Ten play? We're going to do that next on Locked On Badgers. But first, a quick break for our final friend of the show over at FanDuel. And it is the best time to go on to FanDuel. Right now, football is obviously starting. Basketball is going to start in a couple months. Baseball is coming up into the playoffs. This is a great time to go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. All new customers get $5 bet, and you get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Plus, all new customers who bet that $5 will get $100 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. So it's a great platform for sports wagering, but you also get a little money off to watch the games. The app is safe, secure, incredibly easy to use, quick payouts. You don't have to mess around with all that other craziness that those weird kind of shady looking betting sites have, FanDuel has you covered 100%. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. Kick off the NFL season with an offer you don't want to miss. FanDuel, the official sports partner of the NFL. All right, let's get Coach back on. Let's talk about, this is a big one. Like, going on the road, going to West Lafayette. It's a short week. Hudson Card is a real quarterback. How do you see this Purdue game shaking out, Coach?
I think what I'm hoping to see is that the defense has taken what they've learned these last couple weeks. Again, they're playing the same offense. It's another air raid team, and it's another air raid team that comes from the Mike Leach school. And Graham Harrell played quarterback for Mike Leach. He was the offensive coordinator at USC with Clay Helton.
Yep.
Clay Helton, his brother was on the staff, who's now the head coach at Western Kentucky, who's offensive coordinator, went to Washington State. And so it's all in the same thing. And it's a very similar system. It's a lot of mesh routes, a lot of stick routes. And so the defense is going to have to adjust. I think we saw it in the Southern game. They were running a lot more zone than people will give them credit for. I think everyone assumes that they're running man the entire time, but you can watch the turn of the DBs, especially the corners. If they're turning towards the quarterback, it's zone. It's not man. You don't face the quarterback in man. And so they can run zone. And I think Hunter Wohler is a fantastic field deep safety, but the problem is he's also the best box safety.
Yeah.
So if they're going to play more zone, which they should, he's going to have to play off the ball. And that changes maybe some of the pressure looks that they want to use, some of the alignments they want to use. But I also, they did some nice things towards the end where they're running simulated pressure fronts where they're showing 5, 6, 7 guys up at the line of scrimmage, and then they're dropping guys out. They're running zero blitzes where they're showing 4, 5, 6. And then if the defender gets contacted, he drops out in the flat to try to get a free rusher. I think that will work pretty well against Purdue. Hudson Card he's a really good quarterback. They've had a lot of problem with fumbles. Like he had 4, I think, in the Syracuse game, lost 3. The running back lost or had 3 fumbles, didn't lose them all. So they have a problem with turnovers, which can be to our advantage. He's been under pressure at times, especially against Syracuse and against Fresno. Like Fresno, they couldn't get the offense going at all. Fresno ran 82 plays and they only ran 60. So that really was encouraging to see. So it's going to come down to defense. Defense has to shut them down on third down. They have to get the ball back to the offense. We need to keep committing to running the ball. It's working. Can people see the Tanner's throwing the ball 32 times in the last game? Of those 32, I bet you another 10 of them were RPOs that were designed run plays. So, the run the ball crowd is getting what they want, and it has to continue because they've had problems stopping the run. You saw it last week against Syracuse, and Tanner's going to have to get involved in the running game because they have a problem. Again, they have a problem with it. They can't. They're maybe a little bit too aggressive downhill, and Tanner has really good ball skills. So I think he's going to be able to pull the ball, get the ball out into the flat, hit those access throws, and that should work there. So offensively, I think we're in a good spot. We just need to keep building. We need to stop making stupid mistakes. Offensive line needs to shore itself up a little bit. But yeah, it's tough to go on the road conference play on a Friday night. But we can't make excuses anymore. They need to show up and they need to play. And I'm hoping they do. Otherwise, this is going to be a big wake-up call. But they're where they should be in terms of what they're doing. They just need to finish.
So you don't sound not that you're dismissive of it, but you don't sound like you are super confident heading into this game. Like it sounds like you expect a certain level of struggles.
Like I think if we can execute and we can minimize the self-inflicted mistakes, especially on the offensive line and especially in the secondary, I think we can win. And I think we could win, not easily, but if Fresno State can put up 39 points If Syracuse can beat them by 15 and put up 35 points, if their defense struggles like they did against a not very good Virginia Tech team, I think we're better. I think we have better players. I think we have a scheme that works, and I think we can do well. But if if Jack Nelson falls down and Riley Mullen blocks the wrong guy, and if Braelon Allen screws up his pass protection, and Kamoi Latu can't tackle anybody, well, then we're going to keep struggling.
Right.
And so it comes down to the players, and the players know that. They know they're in the right spot, and not one player is going to come out and say, "Oh, well, I missed that tackle because Mike Trussell told me to." He screwed up. So it just comes down to execution. So if we execute, I think we win, and I think we're the team that everyone hoped we would be. If we don't execute, then we're going to be the team we were last year, and with the team we were in 2021. We've lost games these last few years, and it has nothing to do with how much talent we have.
Right.
It's execution. And it doesn't matter who the coach is. If the players can't execute, then nothing's going to happen. So it's on them.
It's great stuff as always, Coach. He is Coach Andersen, Ryan Andersen, over at Dairy Raid. We're going to put that up again. I encourage everybody to go check out his work there. You saw a snippet of what he does on our channel today, but there's more than that there. So definitely go check that out. Coming to us from Denmark with coaching knowledge and insight. Coach, thank you so much. And I hope to have you back after the Purdue game to hopefully break down a Badger victory.
Yeah, definitely. Looking forward to it.
All right. Thank you, Coach. Really do appreciate it. For everybody tuning in, thank you so much. You're going to want to tune in. I have a really good interview coming up later today that I'll probably post this weekend. So be on the lookout for that one as well on Wisconsin, and we'll talk later.